For some of you, this autobiography poem is a poem that we wrote already, and you'll have a copy in your notebooks. For others, this might be your first attempt because you chose not to try this kind if we looked at it before. But what I want you to do is I want you to take the text from the autobiography directions and just copy it. So all I did is I went into that autobiography, I copied these directions. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to paste them in a blank document. Paste. And now, just like what we did with the imitation poems, right? I want us to actually set this up in 2 columns so we can feed off of her poem, Mary Ann Larson's. So I'm going to put it into 2 columns. And let's see. So now, though, I need this to move down so that I can use that second column to write my own poem next to hers, right? Okay, so I'm going to move this down as well. It's a long, long poem that Mary Ann Larson wrote here. Okay, so now I'm going to look at her poem. I'm going to see what she wrote. I'm going to use her beginning lines, these lines right here. I'll go ahead and bold this one as well if I get stuck. And I'm going to just try to tell the story of my own life through small moments. So she said, I was the Valentine that arrived before Christmas. I would say I was the 8th child of 9 in a strict Catholic family. All right, so I took a different route than Mary Ann did here, right? But I also tried to stay nice and specific. So, she uses a specific when she says Christmas. I used a specific when I said Catholic. I tried to give some specifics with the 8th child. Then she says, I learned early that red socks are warmest. So she is using a sensory detail here with red, right? Letting us see it, and a sensory detail with warmest. I'm going to think about my own life and what I could say that I learned. I'm going to say instead of early, I'm going to say late. I learned late that how about that? Imitating my father's anger only. Oh, but see, now I'm not using sensory detail. I learned late that sarcastic laughter hurt as much as wet tears. Okay, it's kind of dark, but right, I'm going to try to, I used sound, I used feeling here. Let's see if I can. So then she says, I've held a tarantula in my hand and felt the chill, the tiny hairs. I'm going to say I've held, I feel really dark right now. I must not be in a good place, but I've held my cat. I've held my dog. I want to use sensory detail though. I've held my golden doodle buddies. This sounds awkward. I've held my dog's head in my lap on the dirty floor of a vet's office. Watched as they inserted the needle and dried my tears on his on his fluffy coat. Oh, this is a sad poem I'm writing for you here today, guys. So I had to think about a moment in my life that mattered, right? She said, I've held a tarantula. I decided to talk about having to put my dog down a few years ago. Now, in the poem, she goes to pan for gold at Garnet, Montana, a ghost town, no luck. So I need to think about a place that I've been that was meaningful enough that I would mention it here. So I'm just going to say fished for bluegills at Ed's Lake in Crandon, using cut bait and fish eyes. Illegal, but it works. So, let's see. I think I'm going to add fish for bluegills at Ed's Lake in Crandon as a child, using cut bait and fish eyes. Illegal, but still worked. So anyway, I'm going to use tiny moments from my own life. I want to get really specific. I want to help the reader see what I'm seeing. I'm using her beginning lines to kind of get me started. Maybe when I go back through this poem later, I'm going to do some rearranging because some of the stanzas might not make sense where I have them. Like I said, I think some of you do have a version of this in your notebooks already from earlier work that we did. But if you don't, you can kind of start from scratch. My recommendation would be to at least imitate 2 full pages of hers and then just find the best parts and keep that as your final draft poem. Maybe when we move to our portfolio. I look forward to seeing what you have. Even if you are going to use some of the version that's in your notebook, at this point, I would expect you to be more adept at using sensory detail. I want you to be thinking about using all of the techniques that we've talked about thus far. And I really look forward to seeing your autobiography poems. Good luck.